Good evening, everyone. Tonight is the Town Council regular meeting, Wednesday, October 21st, via GoToMeeting teleconference, and we will start the meeting with the pledge.
Let's sit up straighter.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which we stand,
one
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Move on to item number 2. Are there any visitors that would like to be recognized at this time?
I guess that would be me, June Hanson, Registrar of Voters.
Thank you, June. Welcome. Anybody else?
Welcome.
Nobody else. We'll move on to number 3, which is the approval of the minutes for the October 7th, 2020 meeting. A motion to approve.
So moved.
A second.
Second, Tim.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Moving on to number 4, which is the appointments and reappointments. This meeting this evening, we do not have either. So seeing none, we will move on to item number 5, which is approve the adjustment and compensation for the Registrar of Voters. So we left this off the last meeting. We wanted to get some additional information that Carl had provided to, or that Mary had sent out with the information today. So we have a list of a couple other towns similar in size where they've provided the amount that the Registrar of Voters are getting in those towns. So at this point, we can open it up for the discussion, or if anybody has a motion to would like to put forth an amount, then we can do that as well.
Mr. Manager, quickly, what if by chance there was a third or even a fourth registrar of voters? Is that permitted?
Some towns have that. Hartford was the first one to have a third registrar. A couple others have an additional registrar. Depends on what their voting population is.
Okay, but there's no restriction on a particular number of ROVs?
There isn't a restriction. There's management issues, but there's no restriction.
Sure.
I have a question, Carl. My question is that the registrars receive a stipend, correct? Of $8,000 something a year. But what we were looking at 2 weeks ago was an hourly increase. How does that translate? Is the stipend predicting a certain number of hours per year, or how does that work?
I can't pretend to know how the town backed into the stipend that you have at present. It's an odd dollar amount.
Well, I mean, did they take the $8,000 and divide it by 10 hours a week or something like that, and that's how they come up with the 17 and change? Does anybody know how that figure is arrived at? I mean, how that per hour figure was arrived at?
June,
Well, I understand a yearly salary, Carol. I don't think
Right.
it's based on any amount of hours.
Right. But what we looked at 2 weeks ago was a 2% raise that was 34 cents on $17. So should we be approaching this from the aspect of just increasing the stipend, or looking at the dollars per hour? Okay. That makes more sense.
Increasing the lump sum. Finance don't figure it out from there.
That makes much more sense. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, it
So
does.
June, were you ever aware of them putting out there a certain number of hours, or that was never discussed to your knowledge?
No. It's always just
Oh.
been, we called it a salary. We have tax taken out, their state, this, that, and the other thing are taken out. We're not, we don't have any insurance.
You've never had a year like this, though, either.
Oh,
Where
no.
No, where you're not getting what you're earning. I mean, you're not, you know what I mean, being compensated properly.
Well,
Is
we
there
are,
anybody? Go ahead. I mean, at this point, is there anybody, is anybody comfortable with setting a dollar amount and putting it forth as a motion to approve and have a discussion about that?
I think
No, I'm not against it. I'll start the ball rolling. If I'm correct, and not always correct, but I think you were getting, when they did get increase, something like $500. Is that correct, June? Every 3 years or so?
I don't even think it was that much, Dennis.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
there isn't a time frame. There has never been an assigned time frame like where it gets looked at every year or 2 years or 3 years.
Correct.
It just, if the budget is good, then generally they get a raise, but there isn't a time frame tied to their raise structure.
Correct.
True, Carol. And I've seen the rates here. I've looked all over at the various rates and for what people do in different towns and everything. And, I'll start the ball rolling and see if they're at this crazy figure of 84,570. I mean, I would round it right off to begin with, at least at $9,000 a year. And that's a little bit light, I think. My honest opinion is I'd like to go to 9,500 a year, but I'll start the ball rolling for discussion with that number, $9,500.
Carol?
Well, I'm never one to spend money frivolously, but just to bring them into the ballpark, they'd have to get $1,600 more to bring them to 10,000. I would recommend the discussion be for a $10,000 stipend.
Very good. I could buy that. I just didn't want to be, as you said, the man that wanted to start throwing, big bucks out there. But I think that's a very fair offer myself.
And that doesn't even bring them up to what, the next active registrar gets, but it's a start right now.
Anybody else have comments?
Looking at charts, that gets them right, just about where everybody else is, 10,000.
Anyone else?
No, I think that's fair. And if there was a third registrar of voters, would they simply be paid? Would be paid that amount? We would just add a third stipend.
It would all be paid equal.
Yeah. Okay.
That's my point, yes.
So basically, we're talking about a $1,500 per year increase at this point. Does that seem fair or equitable, or Jill, mute your camera?
I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, we've probably been lagging behind
Without a doubt.
years. And that this just brings people into what the norm is. It certainly isn't extravagant by some of these numbers I see here on the paper. Brookfield's got 13,000 per year, and Westbrook's got 12,000, and Orange, where I have a friend out there, boy, they're pretty good at 28,000. But I think, Carol, that 10,000 is at least getting them back into close to what people are doing.
Do we want to discuss the per event stipend at all? I see that the other towns do offer that.
What? Where do you see that?
I don't know. It's in there. It
town?
says some town has $600 per.
We do take a stipend for the events.
You do?
Separate and
Usually
separate from this.
a referendum will usually take 3. Usually on a November election, if it's a municipal or gubernatorial, we'll take about 6. A presidential, I know in the past we've taken a little bit more, but let me just give you a few statistics as to what we've been dealing with this year for this presidential. We've had 671 new registrations from July 1st. Just new registrations. From July 1st, 671. We've got now 10,308 registered voters in the town of Clinton. We've got,
So, June, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead, go ahead. I mean,
No,
between
when
the,
you say you get a stipend, is that over and above the $8,457? Is that on top of that? Oh,
It is.
okay,
yeah, all registrars get that.
okay, all right.
And when you say registered, that's just you and Wendy, correct, Jim?
I'm sorry, say again?
That's just for you and Wendy, get these stipends.
Right, exactly. Everybody pay our workers, and all other town registrars do get the stipends for the events.
It's a tough one.
June, what would you say is the total amount of stipends in the past that you have received in a regular election?
You
In
mean
a regular
last
year,
20
you mean, Tim?
Yeah, say the last one.
last year, what did we get for a stipend?
Yes,
In November 2019?
yes.
I believe we got 700. I mean, that was an extenuating circumstance as we went to a manager. There was a lot of moving parts in that. We spent a lot of hours on that.
June, can I ask, who regulated that stipends? How did that get started, and who makes the judgment on what the amount is?
When I started in 2000, that was already in place. As time has gone on and this job has become much more of a challenge, it's a lot harder than it was 20 years ago when I first started. I've adjusted it. We usually, Wendy and I talk about it and we make the adjustment as we go along.
So, June, the stipend comes from the town, not the Secretary of State or anything.
Correct, it's in our budget.
I don't know how that works.
I don't either. I mean, it doesn't get approved by the town council or the board of selectmen in the past, and I never knew that registers got a stipend.
I didn't either, but
Well, that still shouldn't prevent us from giving.
no,
No.
definitely, I agree.
The question becomes, what's the amount going to be? 9,500 or 10,000?
I would make a motion to increase their stipend to $10,000.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion. Get it on the floor.
And make
Any
it
other-
retroactive to July 1st. I'd like to amend the motion to make it retroactive to July 1st.
Dennis, will you accept that amendment?
Yes.
So retro back to July 1st?
Yeah.
So on the floor, it's 10,000 retroactive to July 1st. Is there any other further discussion?
Can I do want to make this, I'm looking at the budget sheets from that we were provided by Sue for tonight's meeting. I don't see a line in elections and meetings that looks like a separate stipend would be drawn from. I mean, June, we'd like to know that you're getting compensated for the extra and everything that goes above and beyond what the normal daily work of a registrar is. We're all happy with that. I mean, never mind. I'm speaking for myself. I'm happy to hear that. I just don't see in here where there's a line item that looks like it's healthy enough to do that with.
Part-time election workers is where it usually comes out of.
Which is $11,000 in the budget. That's enough to cover your people and that? Will that be the same this year? Will that cover
Yeah,
this year?
Make it work.
Because you have what, 20-something people on election day this year?
30.
Oh. Whew.
Yeah, I applied for and got a couple of grants through the state of Connecticut. We've got
Oh, thank you. Okay.
I got state of Connecticut.
And then we can always go into contingency like we do at the end of every year and transfer where it's needed.
Okay, any other further discussion on the motion on the floor?
Anybody else?
Nope. All right, hearing none, all in favor of motion to approve a registrar of voters salary to $10,000 retroactive to July 1st. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. And again,
Thank
thank you, June, for all you're doing. We all
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Very, very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. It makes us feel like we're worthwhile. Thank you.
You and
You're
Wendy.
Very.
Welcome. More than welcome.
All right, so moving on now to number 6, which is the finance director's report. Sue had to leave work early today to attend to a family matter. So at this point, we all have the finance report. If anybody has any questions on this report, please email the questions to Carl and he will get the answers back for you. Number 7, chairman's report. Just two things really. Again, Mary's still finishing up and working on, I guess, working with Carl as well to finish up the website, just so everybody knows that that's going to be forthcoming fairly soon, a new update to the website. And again, to continue to kind of push people and make sure that people kind of move towards the website, because there's some things on there with the new website where they'll be able to, subscribe and get links and alerts from the town. So we want to start making sure that people are aware of that and try to, build up the communication through the website, through the Facebook page, and making sure that people understand that we're still active on those pages. And then the one other thing is I went to a PIC Zoom meeting last week, and there was a lot of talk about some stuff going on in town the past couple of years, and most people, I guess, hadn't really heard about it or thought about it, but during the time around November 1st, we've lost 2 students in the past couple of years to suicide. And PIC was trying to put together a group that would just, kind of talk about this, mental health obviously being a big issue. So on this meeting, they decided that it might be beneficial on the weekend of November 1st to put together an event where people can kind of maybe just go out and get together, and just kind of hang with each other and do some stuff. So they've put together a program called Clinton Connects. So it's by the Clinton Human Services committee that is doing it. It's on Sunday, November 1st from 1 to 4, and it's at the Clinton Town Beach. So they're going to have some music. They'll have some people speaking. But it's basically an event so that people kind of making some awareness of kind of what's going out there and a lot of the trouble that some of these kids are having with mental health issues, and making sure that people know that they can talk about it and there's places for them to go to talk should they need to. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that event. I'm sure you'll see it posted all over Facebook in the coming days. Other than that, that is it for me. We will move on to the town manager's report.
We have my written report, and I did email you previously the positive outcome that we had from our bond sale that took place earlier, which delivered the targeted net present value savings as well as the cash flow savings to the town. So that will start to give us a little bit of budget relief going into next fiscal year and for the next few years beyond that. We try to take the top off of the town's prior bonding. I would point out there have been some updates on like the STEEP grant award. As it stood when I wrote the report, it was supposed to be in the governor's office and announcements were going to come out sometime this week. There was a call this evening at 5 o'clock with state officials. Apparently that's going to be kicked out another 2 to 3 weeks before there's an announcement on any awards to that end. Also on the state front, you may be aware in the news media that the governor is letting some municipalities dial back their level of reopening from level 3 to level 2, phase 3 to phase 2, based on what their COVID caseload starts to look like. Right now, that's not an issue for Clinton, and it's not an issue for the CRAD Health District region. It is a problem for a number of municipalities in the state, and closest it is to us is out in New London, and it's also in Danbury. But the conversation is what happens if our case volume should increase to make us at the yellow, orange, or red levels. So the state will be rolling out some additional guidance to municipalities on what ticketing and enforcement may have to be done going forward, as well as what the local decision tree is going to be for any choice to roll back phase 3. There are impacts to the Board of Education. It's a conversation already with Mary Ann for what level of communication we need to keep going. Good case counts get high enough that warrant some sort of additional trigger. Obviously, we can avoid the whole thing if people are vigilant with mask wearing and keeping up the social distancing. The state's maps will be updated every Thursday, so you can see what happens with the growth or expansion of different towns. To that end, for the past couple of weeks, through the town's website and Facebook, we've been giving more metrics on what we've got from CRAD's positive data. So I've crunched numbers a couple of different ways to show what you've got for case counts, as well as what the age brackets they're fitting into. And no surprise, the more recent age brackets of positives are more in the 20 to 30-year-old range than it was when we were at the beginning of this, when it was in the 60s to 70-year-old range. So we'll see what all else has to happen with the state, but obviously monitoring and making sure everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing to make sure we avoid going into one of the negative categories that the state is maintaining. The only other item I would call to your attention, and it was, you got all the handouts for it, was the joint effort between Human Services and the Police Department on the UR Community Cares. So you've got outlines in terms of what the program is and what its intended reach is. So this is separate and distinct from whatever work is ongoing with the senior task force. This is really focused in on a slice of the senior population, and we hope that we can deploy this going into the next calendar year, and the police department provide the volunteers, and then the Human Services will find the client base who are in need and need that regular check-in by somebody from the public. So we hope to get that off the ground, and that it will launch as a successful program starting in January. The only other item of note is I included it in the report was a discussion around financial planning. Now that we've closed on Indian River, we should have some financial discussion as a board for where we want to go, how those dollars might be best deployed, but also looking forward a few years and looking backwards to help give us, or at least help give me and the administration some guidance on where you want to go with budgeting. I can issue a budget charge to staff, but I want to bounce a few things off of the council, and financial planning is an opportunity to go through a process and look at a financial forecast going out a number of years to help make some planning decisions around where we see town expenses going into the future. So I'm in the process of wrapping up what my number crunching would be. It would just be a matter of how you want to consume that information, whether it's at a regular council meeting or a separate Zoom type session. And that's it.
Thank you, Carl.
Mr. Manager, just a quick question. Yeah, where are we with the attorneys? We interviewed the 3 firms. Any updates on that?
Number 10.
Yeah, I think it's number 10. I did ask for direction previously.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? No. All right, then we will move on to number 10, which is the motion to go into executive session to discuss
Wait a minute, did
personnel.
you ask for town council liaison reports?
Oh, sorry, town council liaison reports.
Because I attended the Department of Public Works meeting last night, and they have completed 6 miles of road resurfacing, and they're stopping for the winter months, and they will finish the other half of their projected road resurfacing in the spring. And that's really the highlight of the meeting.
Carol, I have a question for you. because I've been getting questions myself. Was there any discussion, is there any plans on taking care of Glenwood Road, which has
Well,
been,
that's the water company, isn't it, Carl? It's the water company's responsibility.
There's an issue at present between the water company and its contractor. We have stated that we need to have, we can't allow the current condition to exist going into the winter. So the water company has been pushing the town's position of there needs to be a permanent patch at a minimum going into the winter to make sure that it's a smooth driving surface. The current condition is unacceptable, and that's between the water company and their vendor to iron out what that means. We need to have a certain level of surface condition before the weather starts to go south. At this point, it's probably too late to assume that you would get a final pave. So it would be some sort of permanent patch to carry you through the winter. And then once we get into the spring, then it would be a mill and proper pave job on the road. So you'd have a better surface during the winter months than what you've got now, so you don't shake your teeth out of your head. You could go into a proper paving surface in the spring.
thank you.
You know,
Carl.
and related to that sort of is that company has made cuts in lots of other roads in this area south of Route 1. They've put cuts through the pavement in Leffingwell Road and a number of other roads down here where if they don't do anything, water is going to get into those cuts that they've made and wreak havoc with the pavement that's there. So I wonder what the status of that work is. We don't want to, I mean, it doesn't seem like it'd be a good idea to have these roads with these cuts through the surface existing and filling with water and freezing throughout the winter. So something else to keep in mind. That's it.
Anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Dennis Donovan here. I attended the police commission meeting last Monday. Nothing radical to report, as Mr. Kilduff gave you a report about that Connect for seniors. That looks like it's going to be a very outstanding program. Their budgets are moving right along as expected. I'm very happy to report that their overtime really been kept under control. I think they've done a wonderful job over there on that. Two things of note. Captain Joe Flynn is going to retire. And it will probably happen within the next month. And so, of course, that will then create a vacancy all the way down to a new officer. However, they have not made any official plans yet on how they will fill the vacant captain position. A second note is that Officer Matakaitis has also indicated that early next year, around January, that he too will be leaving, retiring after 10 years of service. So as you can see, that the town again will be going out in the next couple of months and try to recruit, and hopefully we can get some lateral movement so that it will be a cost savings to the town. But so that's the two things of note. I'd just like to say that Captain Flynn served 32 years in this town. He started in 1988 and came up right through the ranks as a young man, right all the way. And I know Clinton's going to miss Captain Flynn, and I know that everyone wishes him well on his new endeavor. But that's me.
Thank you, Dennis. Anyone else?
Yes. Yeah, quickly, Inland Wetlands had 2 site walks on Cal Hill Road on Sunday morning. And Planning and Zoning met on Monday evening. They appointed Kathy King as the Aquifer Protection Agent. She's currently taking a certification course. We had a pretty comprehensive report from the consulting town planner. And he is continuing to work on amending zoning regulations and continued work with the land use staff on research into proposed zoning regulation amendments, all included there in their minutes. So that's my update.
Thank you, Eric. Anybody else? Okay. There are none. We'll move on to number 10, which is the motion to go.
Sorry,
into
Chris.
Ooh.
Sorry, Christine Appeal. Just want to let you know that the natural hazards mitigation plan has, a comment period has closed, so the plans are now going to be submitted to the state for review.
Thank you. All right, we're all set there. Then we will move on to finally number 10, executive session personnel pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-206A. Motion to go into executive session and invite Carl and Mary.
So move.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain.
And we're back from executive session. No decisions were made. Number 11 is the motion to adjourn.
So move.
Anyone? Second? Question,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you all very much again. Have a good night.
See you soon. Thank
Good
you.
luck, all.